Next Gen Console Watch is presented by the Army National Guard. To find out more about how the National Guard is delivering food, building hospitals, and working in our communities during the COVID pandemic, visit nationalguard.com/esports. Welcome back to Next Gen Console Watch 2020, our show following all the news and rumors on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. I'm Damon Hatfield, and joining me as always are Jonathan Dornbush, host of IGN's PlayStation Podcast Beyond.
Beyond, Damon.
Beyond 2 as well. And Ryan McCaffrey, host of IGN's Xbox Podcast Unlocked.
What's happening, Damon?
Not too much. Just as always, following every little last bit of rumor and tidbit I can find about next-gen consoles. We begin this week with release dates. We don't yet know the official release dates for either PS5 or Xbox Series X. However, we're starting to hone in, starting to get a clearer picture because of some release dates of games that are supposedly launch titles or very, very close to launch titles. We know the release date for Assassin's Creed. It's November 17th. That's a Tuesday. It's a Tuesday before the week of Thanksgiving, and most importantly, the week of Black Friday. So, Ryan, let's begin with you. What does that tell us about when the Xbox Series X may be arriving? Assassin's Creed Valhalla has been very closely aligned with the Series X.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't guarantee anything, but it does. The wording of it, along with the wording of the Watch Dogs Legion release date about the Series X availability there, it does seem like it suggests that it's going to be either day and date, the same day, the 17th, a day one launch title, or that the Series X will be right there. Which, I mean, it makes perfect sense. We know about the situation with COVID impacting supply chain. We had Phil Spencer talking about that earlier this year on this show, and on the flip side, number one, Xbox consoles have always launched in November. Not that necessarily means anything, but there is a lot of historical precedent. Three of them, three consoles, all November. And then in addition to that, Microsoft's trying to land Halo Infinite day and date. They've promised that, and the developers have all had to move to work from home, as so many of us have. And so they're probably going to be wanting every second of every day they can get to try and get that thing as polished up and ready to go for that launch as possible. So there's incentive for Microsoft to have a November release date, on the later side of what they can push there, close to Thanksgiving.
November 17th being a Tuesday, would that seem like an odd day? Historically, I think both Xbox One and PlayStation 4 launched on Fridays.
I mean, games typically come out on Tuesdays or Fridays. So,
right.
Yeah, I don't. That's such an old retail kind of mindset of when retail shipments and all that. That seems like it's not something worth putting too much stock in now. But yeah, Nintendo has launched on Sundays in the past. I'm struggling to remember which of the Nintendo consoles were Sunday launches, but I don't. That one, I don't think I would look too much into.
And then, of course, just a couple days after Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Cyberpunk is November 19th. Jonathan, what does this all tell you about the possible release date for PS5? Do you think it's going to be coming out a week or two earlier than Xbox?
Well, let me pull down my very comprehensive sort of chart where I've outlined every possible date it could be and explain why. No, I think these dates definitely tell us something, but I don't know if it's going to be fully apparent until, honestly, we have release dates for these consoles. My best guess is honestly the week before. I wouldn't be shocked if we get an early November release, knowing that week has both Cyberpunk and Assassin's Creed, which are going to be available on current generation consoles as well. And also considering, the week after would give us Thanksgiving and Black Friday, they most likely want to be out before those sales days. But I feel like releasing the consoles in that same week might be almost too much to have to focus on within 1 week. I think giving the consoles and giving their launch specific windowed games their time to breathe earlier in November would probably be the best approach. So I wouldn't be surprised if PlayStation, especially to get around the Assassin's Creed and the Cyberpunk of it all, would aim to maybe launch in early November.
I think we can all agree they're definitely going to be out before Black Friday. They just have to. Inconceivable that they would come out after Black Friday. But is there any chance that either console could be out, say, the last week of October?
Definitely possible. There are good reasons to think that and to hope for that because whether it's Microsoft as the underdog right now wanting to try and get a jump on Sony, whether it's particularly if they end up undercutting Sony on the price front, which is possible. They might want to say, you know what, that worked really well for us when we were out, granted, a full year ahead of the PS3 with the
Right.
360. But yeah, they I believe the PlayStation 4, if memory serves, came out 1 week before the Xbox One.
I think so.
So I'm sure Microsoft, they're clearly going to be more confident in their box this time. It's a more powerful machine compared to the Xbox One versus PS4. They've got a huge launch title in Halo. I mean, it could make a lot of sense for Microsoft to not want to put Halo out right in the middle of Assassin's Creed, Cyberpunk, and remember Call of Duty, which is as yet unannounced, but it's coming. The Black Ops 5, that's going to be right there too. So it could make sense for Microsoft to want to give Halo some more time in the spotlight by itself, and thus have the platform out a little ahead of Sony in late October there.
That is crazy that we're halfway through July and this year's Call of Duty has not been announced. That is insane. Real quick before we move on, Jonathan, any chance of a late October release for PS5?
My inclination to say if anyone's going to release in late October, like Ryan was saying, I think it will be Xbox. I think they'll want to get out of the gate first. And barring them surprising us with the September launch, I don't think we're going to see probably PlayStation go too much earlier than early November. I do think they're going to want to be close to those big games, but give stuff like Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and whatever else they have planned for launch, it's time to breathe. But I think that'll be early November.
All right, before we move on to our next topic, Next Gen Console Watch is presented by the Army National Guard. To celebrate the upcoming console releases, we are giving you a chance to win a Next Gen console by giving away a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X to 2 lucky winners at the end of the month. To enter, all you need to do is visit guardgiveaway.ign.com, where you'll find official rules for the giveaway. So what are you waiting for? Go to the site and sign up for a Next Gen console. Now, last week we got our first look at PS5 Box Art with Spider-Man Miles Morales, and hopefully we're seeing that now. It's a little bit different than what we're used to with PS4. There's a lot more white in there because it's obviously to match the console. Jonathan, what do you think about the new look for the game boxes on PS5?
Positively shocking. No, it makes sense when you consider that I think PlayStation really is leaning into this white color stylization that they've been doing from the DualSense. When they first showed the DualSense but hadn't shown the console, a lot of us were debating, does that mean the console is also going to be white? And obviously it proved out to be. I think this is leaning into that color scheme that they're really trying to drive home this generation. The box, at least from what we saw for Spider-Man, is still that blue case that we have seen for the whole PS4 generation. And also one of the big changes, and I think it helps the white bar at the top, is that there isn't text that says only on PlayStation anymore there, which was the case for most PS4 exclusives. Instead, they're now putting that focus on the PlayStation Studios logo, which is in the bottom right-hand corner of the Spider-Man box art.
Yeah. It's interesting to even think about box art going forward because, of course, there's a whole an all-digital version of the PS5 coming that presumably the owners of that won't even be buying those boxes. But Ryan, on your end, are you hoping for a radical redesign of game boxes for Xbox Series X?
I mean, I don't want to rain on anybody's parade, but to your exact point, Damon, I just don't care
Yeah.
because we're going more and more digital. I plan to buy the PS5 digital because I plan to go with the Series X as well to have. I don't need to pay for 2 optical drives in my living room, my office room here. So yeah, I mean, I know plenty of people still buy at retail, and you want to have something that's. I mean, I think Sony's done a good job of having something that's a little different, with the building more of the white in, but also immediately familiar. Like, okay, I know this, I trust this from the PlayStation era. I think Microsoft actually has a little bit of a bigger challenge with their box art than Sony does, because they're doing the cross-generational approach, and the games will, at least for the first 2 years, they will play on the Xbox One family of consoles. So that's, they've got the Series X optimized badge. So it's a little bit murkier for them to try and communicate to retail buyers when they're looking at game boxes on the shelves in a store that, oh, okay, yeah, this is this is an Xbox Series X game, they're going to have to be very prominent with that Series X optimized badge.
Yeah, it oddly speaks a lot to the philosophy we're at least seeing Sony take with the PS5, which is really that if you want a new generation of games and you want to really lean into the new possibilities, you have to buy and you have to upgrade. And so to have that very, very clear visual distinction between the blue bar of the PS4 and the white bar of the PS5 really does tell players this is something different when they go to a store.
Yeah, speaking of these cross-generational games, that brings us to our next story, which is a report that surfaced last week suggesting that Xbox is telling third-party developers that Xbox Series X upgrades of current-gen games should be free. This is a report from VGC, which cites publishing sources with knowledge of Microsoft's next-gen policies. It says that Microsoft has been encouraging companies working on cross-gen games to offer upgrades at no additional cost. This could make use of Xbox's smart delivery program, where you'll only need to purchase one version of a game to enjoy it across the entire Xbox hardware range. We know there's smart delivery, of course, but not every third parties aren't required to use smart delivery. Some of them are coming up with their own schemes, like EA has one, and then believe 2K was offering a bundle for $100 that got you both current and next gen versions of NBA 2K, I believe. So what I wonder about this is, Ryan, can you see how this might not be desirable for publishers because in users could get the next gen version of a game with better visuals, optimized with better loading times, the $70 version of the game by purchasing the $60 game, right?
Well, we don't know yet if everybody's going to go with the $70 thing. I know we talked a lot about it, and it would
Mhm.
seem like once one publisher does it, then the rest are going to follow suit. Like, well, we're not going to leave money on the table, and so we'll do $70 too. But yeah, that's definitely a complicated part of it. But I would say if you're releasing the same game on both platforms, then yeah, I shouldn't have to pay a second time. I mean, that's we had that with the 360 coming into the 360 PS3 era from the PS2 original Xbox era. Tony Hawk that year and Gun, the Western from Neversoft, both had it was the same game and it was just $10 more
Mhm.
on the new consoles at the time. And so now, I mean, yeah, if you upgrade your PC, which ostensibly is what these consoles are, they're really awesome custom PCs, then you don't have to pay again just because you bought a new $500 GPU.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely with Microsoft on this one. And why? How could I possibly be against smart delivery? I mean,
Right.
it's certainly it's consumer friendly and it builds that trust. Now, if you're going to be doing something totally new, uh, then okay, then I could understand maybe you want some money in exchange for that upgrade to that new version that has new stuff in it.
Mhm.
But interestingly, Madden, I mean, we don't know quite what the feature situation is if there's feature parity, but it's not supporting smart delivery. It is apparently a new, different version of the game for Series X, but EA nevertheless doing that free upgrade program, which I absolutely applaud them for.
Yeah, it seems like it would be more beneficial, even if they lose the $10 on the next gen sale. Maybe it's more beneficial to get them into the next gen ecosystem.
Absolutely. Yes,
Uh,
sir.
Jonathan, what's your reaction to all this? We know, like you were saying, Sony's taking a very different philosophy. They kind of want people to upgrade to next gen as soon as possible, and then just stay in the new PS5 ecosystem.
Well, I definitely personally want that blue case with the blue bar and then the case with the white bar on it. So I don't
Mm,
mind buying two versions of any game. No,
yeah.
we're in a strange position because there isn't any standardization, which is sort of what this report is stemming from of behind the scenes talks. But because there is no standard for the industry to really operate on, and because these are at the end of the day businesses that want to make money, and we've definitely seen developers and publishers at some of the larger publishers try to get money as many ways as possible from players, understandably. The, I'm not surprised that we're seeing sort of this push and pull of what each company wants to do. That said, Sony is in a strange position because they did have something in the cross-buy program back with the PS3 and the Vita and even the PS4. Cross-buy was a thing they were doing for quite a while, that you would get the same game across 2 or even 3 platforms. And that's not something that they've brought back officially in any capacity. We are seeing, some games like Avengers and Cyberpunk will support this free upgrade program on PS5 as well as Xbox. It seems like if companies are doing it on Xbox and they are multi-platform, it's going to look pretty bad if they don't also do it on PlayStation. But it is strange to not see PlayStation also pushing a program of their own when they have had something in the past sort of similar to this.
That's a good point. Well, dear viewers, we want to know which platform's philosophy appeals more to you. Do you prefer Microsoft's keeping an open platform, using smart delivery, optimizing their games for you wherever you're playing it, or Sony's, which is creating a unique console experience with PS5, really wanting to sell a feeling that you're upgrading to something new? Or would you just plan to play all next-gen games on PC? Make sure to vote in our poll at IGN.com. We'll share the results with you next week, just like we've got the results of last week's poll here for you now. With Halo Infinite, Everwild, and Hellblade 2 already announced, we asked you, what rumored Xbox game are you most looking forward to seeing at Microsoft's July 23rd event? Coming in first place with 43% of the vote was Fable. Not too surprising. It's been long dormant, and rumors continue to swirl about its imminent return. Just about neck and neck were Obsidian's next RPG and Perfect Dark, each with about 22%. And then way down near the bottom was Forza Motorsport 8 with 7% of the vote. In spite of the fact that that series is consistently incredible. Ryan, are you surprised to see Forza so low in the results?
It doesn't, because we've talked about this on Podcast Unlocked a lot over the years. Forza has this weird good problem of Forza is excellent every time out, whether it's Motorsport or especially Forza Horizon, where it's it's weirdly tough, I think, in general for even us like hardcore fans to get excited about it, because you just know, like, yep, it's going to be another awesome Forza this year. Like, so it's the hype's tough to get, but you just know the game's going to be good every single time. So I'm not really surprised that Forza did not fare very well on the hype based poll there. Fable, though, I thought it would be closer between Fable and Perfect Dark, but great to see the love for Fable. I'm really happy to see that. That's going to be, if all the rumors are correct, as it certainly seems like they are, that's Playground's new second team. So the Forza Horizon team's second team that they've spun up that will be reimagining Fable. And I really, really hope that we get some kind of, if at least acknowledgement of it, if not a full look at it next week at the event.
Real quick before we go, Jonathan, you're also excited to see Fable winning that poll?
Yeah, Fable's definitely my most anticipated rumored title. I love that franchise and would love to see it continue, especially with such a talented team. I'm not as surprised about the gap between it and Perfect Dark, because I do think there is such a love, especially among Xbox fans, for Fable as a franchise, whereas Perfect Dark doesn't have the biggest, I'd say, Xbox fan base because of that split with the original being on N64. But I think whatever we see glimpses of next week, there's a lot of exciting potentials no matter what.
A quick update for you. Directly after recording this week's episode, we got word that Microsoft is taking some steps to transition to the next generation of Xbox with Series X, and it involves discontinuing a couple of the current Xbox One consoles. Here is what Microsoft had to say. Quote, "At Xbox, we're making massive investments to forge the future of gaming, a future that puts the player at the center of the Xbox experience. We continue to build great games for Xbox One. We continue to build out Game Pass, now with more than 10 million members across Xbox console and PC. We're previewing Project xCloud in 15 countries so gamers can play games with their friends on any device. And we're working hard on the next generation of console gaming with Xbox Series X, the fastest, most powerful console we've ever built, which includes backward compatibility with thousands of Xbox games and all Xbox One accessories. As we ramp into the future with Xbox Series X, we're taking the natural step of stopping production on Xbox One X and Xbox One S All Digital Edition. Xbox One S will continue to be manufactured and sold globally. Gamers can check with their local retailers for more details on Xbox One hardware availability. Well, we'll have a lot more to say on this next week, but it sure sounds like these discontinuations are paving the way for the Project Lockhart console rumored to replace them.
Yes, and next week's episode of this very show should be very interesting following the Xbox First Party Games Conference. That will about do it for this edition of Next Gen Console Watch 2020. Thank you to both Ryan and Jonathan. We'll be back next Friday at 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern with more PS5 and Xbox Series X news. We'll see you then.
Party on, dude. Summer is here, and with it, the biggest show in entertainment, Comic-Con. And this year, it's on IGN. Starting July 22nd, IGN is giving you a front row seat to the geekiest celebrity panels.
I love this show!
The coolest merch, the latest trailers, and the biggest reveals from across the world of movies, TV, and comics. Whoa! Catch all 5 days of Comic-Con at home on IGN and IGN One on Samsung TV Plus.